What if everything your doctor told you about blood sugar was only half the story? Not wrong, just incomplete. Because right now, at this very moment, there are specific foods sitting in ordinary grocery stores that can begin pulling your blood sugar down within hours of eating them. Not tomorrow, not after 6 months of dieting, within hours. And the most shocking part is not which foods they are. The most shocking part is why most people with high blood sugar are never told about them, not in the order that actually matters. My name is Dr. Name, and I have spent years watching patients struggle with blood sugar not because they lacked willpower, but because they were given the wrong map. Today, I am giving you the right one. Let us start with something most people completely misunderstand about blood sugar. Most people think high blood sugar is about eating too much sugar. That is not wrong, but it is like saying a fire is caused by oxygen. Technically true, but dangerously incomplete. The real driver of chronically high blood sugar is something called insulin resistance. Here is what that means in plain language. Your cells are like locked rooms. Insulin is the key. When you eat, your pancreas produces insulin to unlock your cells so glucose can enter them and be used as energy. But when someone develops insulin resistance, the locks get stiff. The keys no longer work as well. So glucose stays stranded in your bloodstream not because your body stopped making insulin, but because your cells stopped listening to it. And here is where it gets interesting. The foods I am about to show you do not just lower blood sugar the way a medication does mechanically, bluntly, regardless of cause. These foods actually speak to the underlying problem. Some of them improve how well your cells respond to insulin. Some of them slow how fast glucose enters your blood in the first place. And some of them do something that almost nobody talks about, something that happens in your gut that changes everything. But we will get to that. First, let us talk about the food most people eat every single morning that is silently spiking their blood sugar before they even leave the house. The average American breakfast toast, orange juice, cereal, even so-called healthy granola is essentially a glucose delivery system. It hits your bloodstream fast, causes a rapid spike, forces a flood of insulin, and then when that insulin overshoots, your blood sugar crashes, and then you are hungry again by AM, reaching for another snack, starting the cycle all over. This is not a willpower problem, this is a biology problem, and the solution starts not with removing things, but with adding the right things first. The first food I want you to understand is one that has been quietly studied for decades and keeps showing up in clinical trials as a blood sugar regulator that rivals some medications. It is not exotic, it is not expensive. It is apple cider vinegar, but not in the way most people use it. Here is what the research actually shows. When you consume 1 to 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar diluted in water before a high-carbohydrate meal, it can lower post-meal blood glucose by as much as 20 to 34% in people with insulin resistance. 20 to 34%. That is not a small number, and the mechanism is fascinating. The acetic acid in vinegar inhibits an enzyme called alpha amylase. Alpha amylase is what your body uses to break down complex carbohydrates into simple sugars. When you slow that enzyme down, you slow the entire digestion of carbohydrates, which means glucose enters your bloodstream more gradually, more gently, and your blood sugar never spikes as high. But here is what most people do not realize about apple cider vinegar. Timing is everything. Taking it after a meal provides almost no benefit. It must be consumed before. Specifically 10 to 30 minutes before eating. That is when it has time to slow gastric emptying, the rate at which food moves from your stomach to your small intestine, which is one of the most powerful levers we have for controlling post-meal glucose spikes. Now, some of you are thinking, what about the teeth? Valid concern. Always dilute it at least 1 tablespoon in 8 ounces of water and rinse your mouth with plain water afterward. Never drink it straight. But vinegar is just the beginning, because the next food on this list works through a completely different mechanism, one that starts in your gut and changes how every meal you eat after. It is processed. We are talking about fiber. But not just any fiber, soluble fiber. And the source that has the most robust clinical evidence behind it is one that costs almost nothing and can be added to virtually any meal. Oats, specifically the beta-glucan found in oats. Now, before you roll your eyes and say you already knew oats were healthy, stay with me, because what beta-glucan does in your gut is something most people have never heard explained properly. When beta-glucan reaches your intestines, it dissolves in water and forms a thick, viscous gel. This gel physically coats the lining of your gut and slows the absorption of glucose across the intestinal wall. Think of it like putting a speed bump inside your digestive tract. Glucose still gets absorbed, but slowly, evenly, without the sudden surge that overwhelms your insulin response. In clinical studies, Just 3 grams of beta-glucan per day, the amount in roughly 1.5 cups of cooked oatmeal, has been shown to reduce post-meal blood sugar by up to 44% compared to meals without it. But here is the twist that most nutrition content never tells you: the type of oat matters enormously. Instant oats, the kind that come in individual packets with flavoring, have been processed in a way that breaks down much of the beta-glucan structure. They digest faster. They spike blood sugar more. Steel-cut oats and rolled oats preserve the beta-glucan intact. Same food, completely different metabolic effect. And if you really want to amplify the effect of oatmeal on your blood sugar, there is one thing you can add to it that changes the game entirely. But I want to tell you about another category of food first, because this one surprises almost everyone I show it to. Legumes, lentils, chickpeas, black beans, kidney beans. Of all the carbohydrate-containing foods on Earth, legumes consistently produce some of the lowest post-meal blood sugar responses, and the science behind why is remarkable. When researchers put people with type 2 diabetes on a diet that substitutes 1 cup of legumes per day in place of high glycemic starches, they see a measurable drop in HbA1c, or 3-month average blood sugar, in just 3 months. And the reason is not just fiber, though legumes have plenty of that too. The reason is a property called the second meal effect.